Hey guys, Jang here from ultimaterc.com with my final thoughts on the Traxxas Telluride 4x4. So how do I evaluate a vehicle? I first look and see what is it, what kind of vehicle is it, what is it supposed to do. I then go out and see how well it does what it's supposed to do. And then finally I look at how much I had to pay to get it to do what it's supposed to do as well as it does it, if you followed that. So first off, what is the Telluride 4x4? What is it supposed to do? Is it a rock crawler? Is it supposed to do rock crawling? The answer to that is a plain and simple no. It is not designed to drive like this in any way, shape, or form. It's not marketed as a crawler. It's a fully independent suspension vehicle, not set up for crawling in any way, shape, or form. The manufacturer calls it an extreme terrain 4x4. It's intended to do stuff more like this. Go over rough terrain and try to look good doing so with a somewhat semi-scale appearance. Far more scale than most RCs are nowadays, without going all the way to being or attempting to be a proper replica of an actual full-size vehicle. And then let's take that just one step farther in the same direction. What about going high speed over rough terrain? I think it's supposed to do that too, from what I've seen from the way that Traxxas has marketed it, from their little promo video, from how they describe it. This seems to be also within the range of what it's intended to do. So with that said, how well does it do at these things? Well, I think it does okay, not great. The things that hold it back are, number one, the tires. The tires are kind of hard. They don't have a lot of deformation over surfaces. They have a lot of tread area that's going to make them last a long time, but not grip into the type of extreme terrain that this vehicle is supposed to go over. So that holds it back. Pretty common story with RTRs. It's not terrible. They're definitely drivable as is. You know, there are a number of people who can take this vehicle as it is without changing the tires and be just okay with it. So they're not throwaways. Another thing that holds this back is the fact that the diffs are open. Now they tried to tighten that up a little bit by putting in 100,000 weight oil in the diff, but it's not stiff enough for the stuff that you want to do. They really should have given it 200, 300, at least 1,000 weight to make this more effective so that it wouldn't just diff out so easily going over various rough terrain stuff at slow to medium speed. Now there's one other thing that holds this back that really bugs me personally. The Titan 12 turn. It's the same brush motor that they put in their two-wheel drive vehicles. And I've had personally good luck with it in two-wheel drive vehicles. I think that it performs just fine in their RTR two-wheel drive brushed offerings out there. A lot of folks have burned these things out, I know. So there's a little bit of controversy behind that. Some folks absolutely hate them, and I can understand that given the experiences. I can only really speak to my personal experiences, which haven't been too bad in general. However, in this vehicle here, a four-wheel drive vehicle, I've never seen the 12-turn Titan used before. This is a heavier vehicle and is capable of putting down a lot more power to the ground than the vehicles that this is really at home in. And I think that it's just insufficient. So it gives you decent speed. I think it gives a respectable speed as geared, way slower than two-wheel drives, of course. It has to be geared down quite a bit to work in this thing. But it's okay, but it's pushing it. The motor does run very warm over just rough terrain like I show here, which is really the type of stuff that I expect it to be going over. And then when you get into even slower stuff, it gets even hotter. Don't even think about crawling, it will burn, as I learned firsthand, where mine completely gave up the ghost. It was running over well over 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's just a rough thing. Easy to fix tires, and that's understandable if you want to go into a very specific situation, very specific terrain. You're going to need to get the best tires for that terrain. I'm not going to dock the vehicle really for its tires. The diff situation should have been done better from the factory. You can run stiffer diffs. I know this from plenty of experience. You can run 200, 300, even 500,000 at one end, and I think 200 to 300 at the other end, and still have enough diff action to drive on asphalt on a very high traction surface. So that should have been done better from the factory, could have been done better from the factory, but it's pretty easy to fix also. These diffs are not too hard to get into, and it is something that you can tune pretty much just like you can tune the oil in shocks. Now, speaking of the shocks, I think the suspension setup on this thing was very good out of the box. It's about as good as you get for RTRs. It was tough to kind of come up, I know it was tough for them to come up with a setup that would be appropriate for the wide range of types of driving that this thing would be subjected to, but I think they did pretty good, and it's definitely in the zone. The motor, the last thing with the motor, that's a tough one. Now, if you want to go slow, I know that the first thing that a lot of folks suggest is throw in a quote-unquote crawler motor, because it says crawler on it. 35 turn, 55 turn. Will that fix that issue? Will that make this thing be able to crawl successfully? The answer is a resounding and absolute no. I know that the answer is no because I tried it many years ago. The very first version of Chimera A, which was basically this exact same thing, just using the slash 4x4 chassis, which is longer, before the Stampede version came out. That used a 55 turn crawler motor with the lowest gearing possible on the chassis at that time, and I tried to drive it slow and burned out the motor. The gearing of the Traxxas 10th scale four-wheel drive platform in general is nowhere near the range that you need to do really slow speed stuff. So to make this thing ideal, to make it really have the range that it's marketed to handle, plus the bonus of being able to crawl with it, you need to run a censored brushless motor setup. You don't need to run the highest cost one possible, but you do need something that is censored so that you can get down to really low speeds. You could get away with something sensorless if you're not going to do a whole lot of really mean crawling where you really need precision and the lowest speeds possible. But to make this thing a true success, I think that you need to have a censored brushless system. And of course, once you do that, it's going to raise the cost of this thing significantly. But once you do that, if you do change out the kind of starter entry level motor system that's here, put on some better tires, stiffen up the diffs, will this thing crawl and do nice light to medium duty trail driving and be able to drive quickly? The answer to that is a resounding absolute yes. I know that because I tried that years ago with Chimera B, the shape of my shapeshifter, which is basically this exact vehicle. It's basically the Telluride 4x4, same size arms that are narrower than the Stampede, short course wheels and tires, same chassis, same almost identical gearing, trying to do the same thing. It was an absolute success. This platform, even though it is an independent suspension vehicle, with the proper tuning and with a sensorless system, can crawl pretty decently well, surprisingly well, and it can do slow speed trail driving, and it can go as fast as you want it to go. So as a starting point, the ready to run So Telluride 4x4, I think, is just an okay truck. 300 bucks without discounts. You buy it at Tower with the Super Saver Club discount, you can get it for 250 bucks. Honestly, you know, I'm still a kid at heart. I still am very, very close to memories of how I thought when I was a kid, and I know for a fact that a kid 10 years old or younger who hasn't been exposed to crazy 70 mile per hour 3S, 4S LiPo street run vehicles would love the Telluride 4x4, love it to death. This kind of driving, going over big whoops and random terrain at a construction site type of field is just awesome. It's way faster than any toy grades, and it's still within a safe, reasonable speed. As long as they don't try to go crawling with it, I think that the motor will hang in there for a while, but the slower that you get, it is definitely something that you'll have to look out for. But in general, the performance is good, and you have this platform that has so much aftermarket support. There's so much that you can do, starting from that 250 bucks instead of 350, 370, however much the Stampede 4x4 would cost with the brushless motor system already installed. It allows you to start small and work your way up. There's so much that you can do with this thing. Tuning wise, I think it makes a great entry into hobby grade RC. But for folks who are already into the hobby, who already know it, and who are just looking for a trail driving vehicle, I wouldn't recommend that you even think about getting the ready to run Telluride. Wait for rollers to show up on eBay, or better yet, get yourself a, actually I do think that this is good to get as a roller as opposed to a Stampede 4x4, because this one does have the shorter arms pre-installed, the new specially made arms. These are not Rustler rear or Stampede 4x4 front or rear arms, which are rather long compared to Slash two-wheel drive or Nitro Rustler length rear arms. That's the length that they put on there. That's the length that I used also on my shapeshifter project. So starting off with those narrower arms, if you want to get some sort of trail driving setup, maybe put on a different body or slam this body down a little bit, a lot more than it is right now. Even almost fully compressed, you've still got some room to lower that body. Reducing the center of gravity would help it quite a bit. Forget about using a brushed motor system. Just get an inexpensive, or however much, whatever price range that you can afford or want to afford, censored brushless motor system. Get the wheels and tires that you want, and then you've got something good. But the ready to run here, I would definitely keep this in the range of younger kids, folks just starting out in the hobby. I think it's really good for that. But for folks who are more experienced, it just isn't good enough at any one thing, in my opinion. So that's it for my thoughts on this one. Be sure to check out my pure driving videos if you haven't seen those already, where I show more footage of it driving in different situations, and you can get a better idea of how it actually performs. And I'm done with this one for now, so I will be moving on to other things. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions or comments about the Telluride 4x4 or anything based on this same platform, be sure to check out the appropriate forums at ultimaterc.com or your own favorite forum site. Look for areas about the Slash 4x4 and Stampede 4x4, which are both basically the same platform here, and folks will be able to answer questions related to it. Have fun RCing, and I'll catch you next time.